Hi everyone. Welcome to day 9 of our DSA series. I'm Soumyadi Paul, a mentor at CodeCardos and a developer at Expedia Group. And in today's video, we won't be covering any DSA concept. That I'll keep for some other video. But in today's video, I want to share my experience of the recent Amazon interviews that I gave. Now, I just gave the interviews just this Saturday and today is Monday, so I just gave those interviews 2 days ago. So I myself am not sure whether I got into Amazon or not, but I just wanted to create this video so as to share my experience as how I prepared and what is the process of application and what are the type of questions that come, how many rounds are there, etc. So that all of you get some idea. So that if you are also preparing for such a similar product based company, you can get some guidance through this video. Okay. So yeah, the very first step is to apply for the job. So go to Amazon careers page, skim over all the jobs and look at some job which feels similar to whatever experience you have. Once you select a few jobs, apply on those jobs through referrals. Yes, referral is a very important part. A lot of people think that referral may not be that important, but it is. Many companies like Amazon and even my company Expedia Group, we prefer to give employees a chance, give candidates a chance if those candidates have a referral from some of our employees. Okay. So once you apply to a job, if your resume gets selected, then you will get a link in your email for OA, online assessment. This online assessment consists of two DSA questions which need to be done under 90 minutes. After you do these two DSA questions, then you will get a bunch of behavioral questions where there is no time bound. So you can do it within half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, completely up to you. But usually it takes about 1 hour. I also took about 1 hour to do those behavioral questions because there's a lot of them. Okay, it isn't just 8-10 questions. There were, I guess, 30-40 even more, almost, yeah, more than 30 questions. So, and in both those DSA questions, each question will have 15 test cases. So you will clear the OA round and go into interviews only if you pass all 15 test cases in both the questions. So 30 test cases in total. Okay. So once you pass the online assessment, then an HR calls you and your physical interviews get scheduled. So yes, Amazon does not conduct online interviews anymore. So if any of you were planning of cheating in some way, please forget about it. And honestly, in my personal view, I loved the experience because I am unfortunately a COVID batch pass out. I graduated in 2022. So till now, I had always given only online interviews. So this was my very first experience in giving offline interviews. And I honestly loved the experience because in offline interviews, it is much more easier to connect with the interviewer, to communicate with them, to express your ideas, to showcase your thinking. You have a pen and paper, you have whiteboard markers, you become aggressive, you show that what you're thinking, how you're thinking, etc. So in online interviews, I felt that I sometimes get isolated from the interviewer, but in offline interviews, it is very easy to connect and communicate with the interviewer. But that's just my personal opinion. Okay. So yeah, there were four rounds of physical interviews. The first round was a DSA round. In this DSA round, it was a 1 hour round. For the first 45 minutes, they asked me two DSA questions. First was a typical uh, recursion and dynamic programming question. On a 2D matrix, we had to use dynamic programming. I hope you all know what dynamic programming is. And the second question was based on sliding window two pointer question on arrays. Okay. And yes, in my online assessment, both the questions were based on graphs. So if you are preparing for Amazon, please properly prepare graphs chapter, the entire graphs topic. Okay. All those complex algorithm, please prepare them thoroughly. Okay. So so yeah, in online assessment, both the DSA questions were based on graphs. In my first DSA round, the first question was based on dynamic programming and the second question was based on sliding window and two pointer. Okay. And this was the first 45 minutes. So what happens is they ask you the question, you explain the solution in a whiteboard or in a pen and paper. And once they agree with your solution, you tell out the time complexity, the space complexity. And then once they say, Okay, your solution is the most efficient solution. Your time, you have told me the correct time complexity, you have told me the correct space complexity. Now take this piece of pen and paper and you have to write down the entire code in pen and paper. So you won't have AI, you won't have autocorrect like you have in your IDE. So please be a bit thorough with the syntax of any programming language you're using, whether you're using Java or C or C++, etc. Be a little thorough with the syntax. Okay. So yeah, so these two DSA questions were asked for the first 45 minutes. For the next 15 minutes, they asked me behavioral questions. Like, tell me a time where you faced some difficult challenge in your job and how did you manage to overcome it? Or how did you went beyond your limits to push beyond your limits and achieve something within a strict timeline, etc. These sort of experience based behavioral questions. Okay. And trust me, these are very, very important. You may think that, hey, I solved both the DSA questions, which I did. And it doesn't matter if I don't give proper answers or I perform poorly in these behavioral questions. No, absolutely not. These behavioral questions are treated as important as the DSA part. Okay. So you cannot screw them up. So yeah, that was the first round. The second round was a leadership principle round where first 30 minutes were asked on questions, again completely on behavioral questions based on my experience, like give me an example of a time where you had a argument with your manager, or tell me about a time where you had an argument with a teammate, or tell me a time when you did something wrong in your job and what was the mistake, how did you rectify it, what did you learn from it, etc. Okay, that was the first 30 minutes. The next 30 minutes was one DSA question, and it was based on topological sort. So, again, something related to graphs. Okay. So, trust me, if you're preparing for Amazon, Google, Microsoft, any such top notch company, then please, please be very thorough with these topics like trees, graphs, dynamic programming, etc. Okay. Topological sort is something which most people skip it. They don't even study it. So please don't skip these topics. Okay. Then the third round was LLD round and the fourth round was HLD round. In LLD round, again, you have to design a database, you have to design a UML diagram, you have to talk through whatever solution they ask you for, you have to design some APIs, etc. And then the fourth round was the HLD round, where you have to design a complete system. Based on whatever task they give, you have to tell whatever entities you have to use, you have to do some um, back of the hand estimations, bandwidth estimation, data storage estimation, etc. Then you have to design all the different components, all the different system components required, whether you will use load balancer or not, whether you will use Kafka or not, where you will use them, why you will use them, what type of database you will use, whether it's a NoSQL or a SQL database, which NoSQL database, why this NoSQL, why not a SQL one, etc. So the entire conversation revolves around this. Okay. So, yeah, that was my experience, and I hope this video was helpful. And I'll see you all in the next video, which is tomorrow. And in tomorrow's video, we will learn again a new concept of data structures. And if you want to learn DSA and system design in a very in depth manner, do join Code Cardos.